Hello everyone. Today I thought I'd share with you just the basics of the last fabric book I made. This is a miniature version that I was putting together, and I was asked how I'd made the base of the book, and it is actually a very simple base. Because this is only a small fabric book, I don't have to use wadding in my pages. I don't have to add any extra bulk to them for them to, act like pages, and that's because it's a small book. The larger the fabric book you make, the more sturdy the base will have to be. If I was making one, like a larger one, I would have to sandwich something in there like felt or wadding or something like that. I would have to have like have a piece of felt between my page to make it sturdy, because it's a larger page. You don't want a large page just sort of floating around there. But because these are only small books, a good sturdy fabric, you've got lace on both sides, that's quite adequate. And then you can just start decorating your page, and the decorations themselves will add bulk to the page so it holds its own. So all I did to make my book was, this one is made out of a Hessian bag, which is a burlap bag in America, I think they call it. Just a nice sturdy fabric. I've zigzagged all around it. I've covered both sides in some lace. This is just lace off an old top. And I've made a long piece, and I've just made two inner pages. And I've made, right, there we go. Now, I didn't take measurements for this because I just sort of guess as I go along most of the time. We usually know what size book we want to make. And when you make any kind of lace or fabric book, you can kind of guarantee that it will end up at least, half an inch to an inch bigger all around, at least. Especially this kind. You won't get an awful lot more bulk with this style, but with others you will. Now with the inside pages, I've allowed a couple of inches, probably 2.5 to 3 inches more than the actual size of the pages for my flap part that will flap over to the front there. I've made one page at least 2/3 the size of the outer cover, and I will position that about half an inch away from the edge of the cover. And then once again, I've made this one about 3/4 of an inch smaller than this page. And the reason I do that is because once that page is folded like that and it's all decorated, I still need to put some lace on that part there. That one's made out of the pants, that piece, because I only had so much Hessian. Once this part has to wrap over it, it needs to be larger than this page just to accommodate the embellishments you're going to put on the page. So you need to have it so that it's, 1/4 of an inch at least on either side bigger than the internal page, so that by the time this part has embellishments on it, it will kind of come up like that, and the edges will pretty much be the same. So if this were embellishments inside of that, see how that kind of measures up then? They end up the same size, whereas it's bigger without that. So that's what you accommodate for. So we have our outside cover, we have our second page, which is 2/3 the size of the outside cover, And then we have our inside page, which will be approximately 1/2 inch, allowing 1/4 inch on either side, smaller than the second one. Now, I have some embroidery anglaise here, and what I will do with that, make sure they're the same side, I will just piece them together like this, and you can either glue this or sew that down the center. I think I'll just sew mine because my sewing machine's right here, so it's easy. If you wanted your book to be neat and tidy and pristine, obviously you would make it that way. You would, have all your edges perfect, and you would have, it finished off really quite nicely. I'm keeping this one quite shabby, so that's why mine's, a little bit rough around the edges, but that's the look I'm going for. Keep in mind, if you're going to add lace around the edges of your book, then it'll all be covered anyway. So there we go. So once that is folded like that, you'll open it, then we have a nice piece of fabric in there that will be covered in lace, and that will open, that will be the center. And then going back the other way, that way, and that way. When you put the pages in, remember that this one is 1/4 inch or so, maybe, 1/4 to 1/2 inch, depending on what size you make it, away from the first page. And also the first page will be the same width away from your cover, so they're sort of stepped, and that's a good way to keep track of making sure you've got it in the right place. I'm just going to clip that so I can hold it where I want it for a moment. There. And there. Okay, and now you can either stitch that on the sewing machine, or you can stitch it by hand, or you can glue it if that's your preferred method. Like I said, I do tend to sew my bases. On my last one, I glued all the embellishments in, but if you choose to sew them in, that's fine, especially with such a small book. I mean, it wouldn't really take a great deal to sew your things in if that's what you wanted to do. You could do a loose stitch by hand or a large stitch on the sewing machine. On the one I previously made, I actually forgot to sew my pages in at the beginning because I'm so used to making junk journals at the moment, and I put the pages in at the end, that I had to sew my pages in before I decorated the outside cover, but it still worked very well. It was still quite easy. I didn't, nothing got ruined or anything like that. So it's really up to you, I guess, when you sew your pages in. I just, okay, just so find your center. See if I can put a pin there. I'm going to get the center of that, and there. Double check, we don't want to get it all crooked before we start. That's there, and that's there. Okay, and take those off for a moment, and I would sew it there. I will come back because I I still need to add the lace to that side. I'll be back soon. Okay, so I have sewn it together in the center there with a large stitch. I put that, I finished off that with lace, and I've just turned it over. I have everything in, nothing's going to be falling out whatsoever. And that will come over there, and of course once it starts getting filled up, it'll probably end up, that will end up over here. You can make whatever closure you want. You can decorate it whichever way you want now. And that's it. That's just the base of this little book. And remember, this was to be a shabby style book. So there you go. Very simple, very easy. And I hope that was helpful for those that wanted to know how it was done. So thank you for watching, and take care. Bye.